엄청나게 집중해서 찍어야 되는 장면인데 저도 모르게 스태프들한테 됐다고.
Lovely viewers, today we dive into a story that has once again set the entertainment world on fire and left fans across the globe talking non-stop. Imagine sitting back, scrolling through your feed, and suddenly seeing the headline. Junki admits he once planned to remarry Song Hye Kyo. Just the thought of this revelation sends chills through the hearts of many who still secretly hope that maybe, just maybe, the fairy tale love between these two iconic stars wasn't over forever. And now, with this confession, a wave of emotions has been triggered that we simply cannot ignore. So grab your tea, lean in close, and let's unravel this surprising, deeply emotional revelation together. Think back for a moment, dear viewers, to the dazzling days of the Song couple. Song Junki and Song Hye Kyo were more than just a drama couple. They were the dream pairing that blurred the lines between fiction and reality. After Descendants of the Sun, fans were gifted the reality of their love, a real-life romance that swept into marriage and gave the entire world hope in love stories that leap off the screen into the real world. Their wedding wasn't just an event, it was history in the making, a symbol of romance, beauty, and destiny. But then, as quickly as the fairy tale began, cracks appeared, and soon after, divorce became the harsh reality that fans were forced to face. But now, this recent confession from Junki that he once planned to remarry Hye Kyo is like throwing fuel onto a fire that never really burned out. It's a revelation that doesn't just stir curiosity, it brings back questions, theories, and what-ifs that fans thought had long been buried. Was there really a second chance in the works? Could the Song couple have reunited had fate played out differently? And most importantly, what does this mean for their relationship now? Lovely viewers, let's pause here and think about it together. Imagine you were in Junki's shoes, loving someone so deeply, losing them in a storm of misunderstandings, and yet, still carrying that hope that someday you could start again. That is exactly what Junki admitted. At some point after their divorce, he actually planned, in his heart and perhaps even in quiet conversations, to take that leap once more with Hye Kyo. He confessed that despite the pain, despite the gossip, despite the judgment from fans and the media, he believed in second chances. Doesn't that just make you wonder how close we were to seeing one of the biggest love story comebacks in history? Now, imagine how Hye Kyo must have felt if she knew of his plans. This is where it gets truly emotional. She, too, had been carrying her share of wounds after the divorce. The pressure of constantly being in the public eye, the endless rumors linking her to other celebrities, the constant speculation about her personal life. It wasn't easy. But then to know that Junki, her once beloved partner, had thoughts of coming back, must have stirred something deep inside. Whether it was bittersweet nostalgia, a flicker of hope, or even confusion, it surely had an impact. Lovely viewers, I ask you, what would you feel if your ex, the one you once shared your most intimate life moments with, confessed that he once hoped to remarry you? The timing of Junki's confession also raises questions. Why now? Why admit it at this moment? Some say it's because he has grown more comfortable in speaking about his past, now that he has established himself once again in the industry and has embraced fatherhood. Others believe it's because no matter how much time passes, there will always be a part of him that cherishes Hye Kyo, and keeping that secret any longer felt impossible. And there are those who believe this confession wasn't just about the past. It was a subtle message to Hye Kyo herself. Could it be a signal that he still holds a soft spot for her, even now? Let's walk down memory lane, lovely viewers, to understand the depth of this confession. When Junki and Hye Kyo divorced, their official statements were short, almost cold. Just words on paper that confirmed an end, but never explained the heartache behind it. Fans speculated endlessly about the reasons. Was it incompatibility, misunderstandings, clashing schedules, or something deeper, something they chose to keep hidden from the public forever? But behind all those speculations, there was always a lingering sense that love like theirs doesn't just vanish. And now Junki has proven that suspicion correct, because if he once considered remarrying her, then the love was never truly gone. Lovely viewers, this is where I want you to really lean in, because this story isn't just about celebrity gossip. It's about human emotions, the ones we can all relate to. Who among us hasn't thought about rekindling an old flame, especially one that burned as brightly as Junki and Hye Kyo's love once did? Don't we all carry that secret thought of, what if? What if I gave it another try? What if things could be different this time? What if love deserves a second chance? Junki's confession resonates so deeply because it is universal. It is a reminder that even stars, with all their fame and glamour, carry the same fragile, hopeful hearts that we do. But here's where the tension rises. If Junki wanted to remarry, why didn't it happen? What stood in the way of their reunion? Some close insiders hint that it was timing. Life pulled them in different directions, and neither of them could pause long enough to find common ground again. Others believe that external pressure, the constant media scrutiny, and the watchful eyes of fans made it nearly impossible for them to privately navigate a reconciliation. And some even whisper that maybe, just maybe, Hye Kyo wasn't ready to open that door again, no matter how much Junki hoped for it. Now let's bring you, the viewer, into this moment. What do you think? If Junki and Hye Kyo had remarried, would their love story have been stronger the second time around? Would they have been able to rise above the noise, the criticism, the challenges, and finally live the life they once dreamed of together? Or do you believe some stories are meant to end, no matter how beautiful they once were? These are questions that not only stir debates among fans but also tug at the very core of what we believe about love, forgiveness, and destiny. And yet, the confession doesn't just linger in the past. It breathes life into the present. Already, fans have taken to social media, creating waves of discussion. Some celebrate the fact that Junki admitted this, seeing it as proof of his enduring love and as a sign that their story is not fully closed. Others caution that this revelation could reopen old wounds for Hye Kyo, who has worked hard to move forward in her life and career. And then there are those who wonder if this confession might actually rekindle something between them now. After all, life has its surprises, and stranger things have happened in the world of love and celebrity. Lovely viewers, imagine for a moment that Junki and Hye Kyo, after all these years, met again, sat across from each other at a quiet dinner table, and talked openly about the past, the pain, the misunderstandings, and the hope that maybe one day they could start over. Doesn't that image send shivers down your spine? That's the kind of moment that could change everything, not just for them, but for millions of fans around the world who still secretly hold a candle for the Song couple. And here's something else to ponder. Junki's life has changed drastically in recent years. He has embraced fatherhood, a role that has softened and matured him in countless ways. Could this confession about planning to remarry Hye Kyo also stem from a place of understanding love and family on a deeper level now? Perhaps he looks back with gratitude and a bit of regret, realizing that the bond he shared with Hye Kyo was more profound than he acknowledged at the time. If so, then this admission is not just about what could have been. It's about what he now understands about love, commitment, and second chances. When a star like Junki speaks out about something so personal, the ripple effect spreads across fans, media, and even the private lives of those involved. And now we stand at a point where we need to examine what this admission truly means. Not just for Junki and Hye Kyo, but for everyone watching who has invested their emotions in their journey. As we said earlier, Junki's confession could be seen in two lights, either as an invitation for reconciliation or as a simple, bittersweet memory of what could have been. But what if it's both? What if he's not just telling the world what he once felt, but also hinting that the door to that possibility isn't fully closed? Lovely viewers, imagine the courage it takes to say aloud that you once wanted to remarry the person you divorced. That's not just a passing thought. It's a vulnerability, a truth laid bare. It means that love in some form is still alive. And when love is still alive, can we ever say that the story has truly ended? Fans all over social media have been debating this endlessly. Some have said, if Junki still carries that love, maybe fate will bring them together again. Others argue, it's too late, life has moved on and so have they. But the sheer fact that people are debating this, even years after their divorce, proves how powerful their love story was and still is. Junki and Hye Kyo weren't just a couple, they were a symbol of romance for an entire generation. So when one half of that couple admits to once planning a reunion, it reignites that spark in every fan who ever dreamed of seeing them together again. Now let's talk about timing. Timing is everything in love. Perhaps Junki's plan to remarry never materialized simply because the timing wasn't right. Think of it, lovely viewers. Both of them were rebuilding their lives after divorce, both were healing in their own ways, and both were under immense public scrutiny. Sometimes, even if the heart wants something, life doesn't allow it at that moment. And isn't that something we all relate to? Haven't you ever wanted to mend a broken relationship, but the circumstances just didn't line up? That's the tragedy of timing. It can make or break even the strongest love stories. But here's an angle that many fans are whispering about. What if Junki's confession wasn't just about timing in the past, but also about timing in the present? Perhaps he waited until now to speak because he feels the world, and maybe even Hye Kyo, are finally ready to hear it. Think about it. After years of silence, years of speculation, suddenly this truth comes out. Doesn't it feel deliberate? Doesn't it feel like he wanted this message to reach not just us, but her? Lovely viewers, close your eyes for a moment and picture this. Song Hye Kyo, sitting quietly in her home, maybe scrolling through her phone after a long day of filming. She stumbles upon the news. Junki admits he once planned to remarry her. How would her heart react? Would it ache at the memory of what they once shared? Would it smile at the thought that he still cherished her that much? Or would it stir confusion, reopening questions she thought were long buried? These are the moments we can only imagine, but they make this confession all the more intriguing. And what about Junki's current life? He has stepped into fatherhood, which is a journey that changes a person profoundly. Many believe that fatherhood has softened him, given him new insights about love, family, and commitment. Could it be that his experience as a father made him look back at his past with Hye Kyo differently? Maybe he realized that what they had was more precious than he fully grasped at the time. And in that realization, he admitted the truth, that he once hoped to rekindle their bond. Now let's not forget Hye Kyo herself. Over the years, she has faced so much scrutiny, so many rumors, yet she has remained poised and strong. For her, hearing Junki's confession could be a moment of validation, that despite everything, he still recognized her worth and the value of their relationship. But it could also be a test of her strength, forcing her to reflect on whether she wants to revisit that chapter of her life or keep moving forward into new beginnings. Lovely viewers, let's interact here. If you were in Hye Kyo's shoes, would you consider giving Junki a second chance, knowing that he once wanted to remarry you? Or would you guard your heart, remembering the pain of the past? It's a tough choice, isn't it? Because love has the power to heal, but it also has the power to wound. The Korean entertainment media has already picked up this confession like wildfire. Headlines are everywhere, and discussions are dominating talk shows and online forums. Some commentators believe this revelation could signal a new chapter for the Song couple, while others caution that it might just stir unnecessary drama. But one thing is clear, the public is still very much invested in their story. And when the public is this invested, the pressure on both Junki and Hye Kyo only grows stronger. Yet, despite the chaos, there is something undeniably beautiful about Junki's honesty. In a world where celebrities often hide their true feelings to protect their image, he chose to share a deeply personal truth. That vulnerability connects him to fans on a human level. It shows us that even someone as successful and admired as Junki still wrestles with love, regret, and hope, just like we do. And isn't that what makes his confession so powerful? As we move deeper into this unfolding story, we must ask ourselves, is this the beginning of something new for Junki and Hye Kyo, or is it simply the closure fans never got years ago? Either way, it's a reminder that love stories, especially ones as iconic as theirs, never truly fade. They linger in our hearts, in our memories, and sometimes, as in this case, they resurface in the most unexpected ways. So, my lovely viewers, let's keep imagining together. What if, in the months to come, we see Junki and Hye Kyo photographed at the same event, smiling politely but with an unmistakable warmth in their eyes? What if one day, Junki drops a cryptic message on social media that fans interpret as a nod to Hye Kyo? What if, against all odds, destiny pulls them back into each other's orbit once again? Would you celebrate, or would you worry for their hearts? Because when Junki's words hit the air, when he admitted that he once planned to remarry Hye Kyo, he didn't just speak for himself. He spoke to every fan who has ever held onto a love story long after it seemed to have ended. And that's why this confession feels less like a statement and more like a spark that has ignited conversations across the globe. Now think about how fans are processing this. The online communities, whether on Twitter, Weibo, Instagram, or YouTube, are exploding with commentary. Some fans are making compilation videos of Junki and Hye Kyo's most tender moments in Descendants of the Sun, overlaying them with captions like, "He never stopped loving her," Others are writing heartfelt posts, pouring out their emotions, saying things like, "If only they could find their way back to each other, the world would feel right again." Isn't it fascinating how deeply invested people are in their love story, almost as if it were their own? That's the kind of impact the Song couple had. They weren't just actors, they were symbols of love and hope. But at the same time, lovely viewers, let's be fair and inclusive of every perspective. There are fans who are cautious, who say, "Yes, he admitted this, but we must not pressure them. They are individuals with their own lives, their own choices. We can't project our hopes onto them." And that's a very important point. Because while we dream of reconciliation, we must also acknowledge their autonomy. The right to move on, the right to guard their hearts, the right to choose a path that feels safe and healthy for them. Still, we cannot ignore the sheer romance of it all. Imagine, if you will, that behind closed doors, Junki had once reached out to Hye Kyo. Maybe he drafted a message he never sent. Maybe he rehearsed words he wished he could tell her. Can we start again? Can we find the love we once had? Maybe he even pictured their second wedding. A quieter, more private one, far from the eyes of the media, where it would just be them, their closest loved ones, and the quiet promise to try again. That thought alone makes hearts race, doesn't it? Because in that fantasy, there's healing, forgiveness, and the belief that love can overcome anything. But life isn't a drama script. It's unpredictable, messy, and often cruel. Perhaps that's why his plan to remarry never came to pass. Yet the fact that he even considered it shows us something vital. That their bond wasn't destroyed by divorce. Endured. It survived in the shadows of his heart, even if the world thought it was gone. Lovely viewers, doesn't that give you chills? Because it tells us that love, real love, never completely dies. Now let's explore how Hye Kyo might truly feel right now. We've seen her grow stronger, more radiant, and more independent in the years since their separation. She has taken on powerful roles, walked red carpets with grace, and shown the world that she is more than the rumors and more than the heartbreak. For her, hearing Junki's admission could be bittersweet. On one hand, it's touching, proof that he valued her enough to dream of a second chance. On the other, it might stir pain. Because sometimes the hardest thing isn't losing love, it's knowing it could have been saved but wasn't. Lovely viewers, let's reflect together. Have you ever been in that situation where someone you loved admitted, too late, that they wanted you back? How did it make you feel? Did it bring relief, or did it reopen old scars? That's the very crossroads Hye Kyo might be standing at now. And we, as outsiders, can only imagine what her heart is processing. Meanwhile, the media isn't letting this confession fade quietly. Already, analysts are digging into Junki's past interviews, searching for hidden clues. Did he drop hints before? Were there moments where his eyes softened when Hye Kyo's name was mentioned? Was this plan to remarry something he had carried for years, or was it just a fleeting thought during moments of longing? The speculation is endless, and it shows just how magnetic this story is. And let's not forget the broader picture. Junki is no longer just an actor. He's a father. His priorities have shifted, his worldview has changed. Fans are now asking, if he once wanted to remarry Hye Kyo, does part of him still see her as someone who could have been a mother figure in his family story? That's a question loaded with emotion, because it blurs the lines between the past, present, and the dreams he once carried. Lovely viewers, this leads us to one of the most fascinating what-ifs. What if Junki and Hye Kyo had indeed remarried? Would their story have been stronger the second time around? Would the storms they faced before seem smaller compared to the resilience they had gained afterward? Or would the same problems have resurfaced, reminding us all that sometimes love is beautiful but not meant to be permanent? These questions don't have clear answers, but they keep us engaged, keep us connected to their story, and keep us hoping. And yet, beyond all the debates, there's one undeniable truth. Junki's admission has humanized him in a profound way. It has reminded us that he is not just a superstar but a man with emotions, regrets, and hopes. It has reminded us that Hye Kyo is not just a glamorous actress but a woman whose love story continues to shape the public imagination. And together, even in their separation, they remain bound by something powerful. the ability to make the world believe in love. So, my lovely viewers, let's not just watch this story unfold like spectators. Let's feel it. Let's ask ourselves what it teaches us about second chances, about timing, about forgiveness. Because whether or not Junki and Hye Kyo ever find their way back to each other, their journey continues to touch our lives, reminding us that love, no matter how fragile, is always worth remembering.